Well, we can speak now with Nabila Ramdani, a journalist who specialises on the Middle East. Many thanks for coming in. First of all, I just want to refer you to the comments of David Cameron this evening. He's had a telephone conversation with President Mubarak, very bold conversation with him, saying that bold steps need to be taken to accelerate political reform, a lot bolder than what we've heard from the US. Do you think the pressure is really now on for President Mubarak to step down or at least call an election?
Very much so. I mean, the reshuffling is clearly not good enough. And the appointment of a new Prime Minister and indeed a Vice President with military credentials, whose expertise is security rather than economics, sums up the situation.
But he said last night in a television address he's not going to go. Why should he listen to David Cameron or Angela Merkel or Nicolas Sarkozy or President Obama? He said he's not going to go.
Well, he might have to. He will have to consider all options because, as we have seen today, the demonstrators are sticking to their guns and they are clearly determined to bring about profound political change. Scenes of further demonstrations, more violence have been taking place. Now looting and vandalism is also happening with hospitals ransacked. The National Museum is being badly damaged with artifacts broken. Symbolic attacks are also carried out on buildings like the main TV centre, but also the Ministry of the Interior, a place of torture, and with people now setting up their own neighbourhood watch committees to protect their belongings and their properties. So open defiance continues, and demonstrators are very much emboldened because of the weakness of the regime.
But what do you think is driving that, when clearly the reshuffling of his administration has been to repress those demonstrations, to stop them in their tracks? He's brought in people that are experts in security rather than the economy, hasn't he?
Well, that's where President Mubarak gets it all completely wrong. Not only he brought in more military people in his very close entourage, and but he also brought in an older generation who are completely out of sync with the demand of young people. And the very fact that Mubarak thinks that the answer to this chaos is more repression and indeed more crackdown sums up the whole situation. And even Washington, as you mentioned, is putting more pressure now on President Mubarak to, it's urging him to introduce socio-economic and political reforms.
Finally, what do you think the end game is? Do you think, rather than the political pressure on President Mubarak, it will be perhaps when the army turns against him? The Egyptian civilians have a huge respect for the army, don't they, rather than the police that have been responsible for most of the violence we've seen on the streets. And so far, the army has been friendly rather than hostile.
It's very hard to tell where things are going, but the demonstrators have shown an ambivalent reaction towards the army. Yes, we have seen scenes where they were shaking hands, they were friendly towards each other. But remember, yesterday there were also scenes where military vans were set on fire and tried to be pushed in the Nile River. So I don't think there is a general sympathy towards the army, and it's very much a feeling of let's see what happens.
A bit of a standoff. Who makes the first move? Nabila Ramdani, many thanks for coming in and speaking to us this evening.
Pleasure.